Let's get more now on our top story and those allegations from a leading prison officer that prisoners have taken control of some jails and that others are too comfy to merit escape. Let's cross live now to our central London studio and get the views of the Deputy Director of the Prison Reform Trust, Geoff Dobson. Geoff Dobson, it seems that life is so cushy in our jails that prisoners don't even want to escape.
Yes, I don't accept that point in that way. I would say there's a lot of good work going on in our prisons and there are many excellent staff, but unfortunately they're all becoming overwhelmed by the problems of overcrowding, and that means that many prisoners have too much time on their hands. They don't go to work in prisons, they don't go to education classes or offending behaviour programmes. They're spending far too much time locked in their cells with other offenders, presumably learning about crime and not much else.
Would you say that these so-called luxuries, TVs, radios, kettles that many prisoners have, are a way of prison officers keeping control?
I think that's true. To some extent they are an incentive, and certainly televisions which are paid for from the prisoners' small earnings are removed if they don't behave. So I think it's a way in which prison staff, particularly in overstretched prisons, can keep some control. We need to remember more than 80 prisons are now officially overcrowded.
Well, yes, and you say that staff shortages are behind a number of the problems at our prisons at the moment. The Prison Officers Association told Sky News this morning that they would consider strike action. Would you then be sympathetic with that line?
No, I think what we would like to see is the problem tackled in a rather different way. First of all, there are a good many people in prison with serious mental health problems. We would estimate about 5,000 on any given day who would be better dealt with outside the criminal justice system. That would free space to deal with those people, serious offenders who do need to be in prison, and free up prison officers to do the sort of job that most of them want to do.
Isn't it true that many victims of crime want to see our prisons being tough? They say if prisoners don't go through some kind of punishment, they're only going to reoffend.
Well, of course, the deprivation of liberty is their punishment. What we would all like to see, I think, is prison being purposeful, a more disciplined regime with prisoners working, prisoners coming out of prison, because nearly all prisoners are eventually released, coming out of prison far better equipped to lead a law-abiding life. At the moment, 2 out of every 3 prisoners are reconvicted within 2 years of their release.
So you'd like to see prison like an adult education college?
Well, it needs to have a variety of elements. It certainly needs to have the work element and develop the work ethic in prisoners, many of whom haven't held down a job in their lives. It also needs to have proper offending behaviour programmes that really face prisoners with the consequences of their behaviour and teaches them a new way of behaving.
So you're saying that's not happening at the moment simply because of staff shortages? That's why those programmes are there, aren't they? It's just
Yes.
They're not being enacted because there aren't enough staff.
As I said at the outset, there's some very good work going on in our prisons. Unfortunately, the prison system is overstretched. We've seen a massive growth in prison numbers in the last decade. It's far outstripped the growth in staff, but we think that many of the offenders in prison, people serving short sentences, could be dealt with better by community penalties, and as I said before, those with mental health problems would be better dealt with outside the criminal justice system entirely.
Do you accept, though, from your experience of our prisons in this country, that there are some areas of some prisons that are out of control? There are no-go areas for prison officers where the inmates are in charge?
I've not seen anything as extreme as that. I think if the POA are saying that, they ought to give details not just to ministers but to the prisons inspectorate, because we have an excellent prisons inspectorate who conduct rigorous inspections of each establishment, and if there were real concerns would go into a prison on an unannounced inspection and look at those allegations and make direct recommendations to ministers and publish those recommendations.
OK, Geoff Dobson from the Prison Reform Trust, thanks for talking to us here on Sky News. You're watching Sky News. Coming up,